Director Auwal Musa Rafsanjani, Sislak says religious platforms should not become tools for political mobilization, partisan endorsements, voter manipulation, or intimidation. The organization is also raising concerns about reported gatherings of religious leaders endorsing political figures and parties, as well as alleged threats against residents in Kuje Area Council over their political choices. This morning, we have joining us virtually the Executive Director of CISLAC, Auwal Musa Rafsanjani, to speak on some of these issues.
Sir, can you speak?
Mr. Rafsanjani, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, very well. We saw the statement that you put out, trying to speak to politicization and weaponization of religion in Nigeria, and particularly to some of the political rhetoric that we're already seeing ahead of 2027. Let me start from some of the comments that were made by the chairman of Kuje Area Council, Mr. Samuel Shekolo, threatening residents who are not in support of the APC, in fact, to leave the area council. Now we understand he's tried to clarify some of what he said, to say that his words were taken out of context. But we heard him. Nigerians heard what he said. You also saw some of those statements. What do you make of statements like that?
Thank you very much. I think these are very, very, very dangerous utterances, to say the least, reckless, irresponsible utterances coming from public officials. It's not just coming from just ordinary person. This is coming from a official of the area council, the head of the area council, that's the chairman of the area council, making this statement clearly violates Nigerian constitution, violates international commitments made by Nigeria on various instruments, protecting and giving the right of Nigerians to freedom of expression, freedom of choice. And to make this statement openly, it is circulating everywhere on various social media platforms. It was not like a statement that was quoted him, without his visual. He spoke and it's all over. The reason why he is now trying to do damage control after some couple of days is simply because civil society organization, particularly Amnesty International, had warned that will propry him. They will propry him, and they will make sure that all over the world he is, his reckless utterances is taken note, and they will make sure that the international community takes necessary action, since our own country has not been able to even caution him. Ideally, you expected that the ruling party of his, that is his own party, and then the Nigerian government generally, should have disassociated themselves from such kind of utterances, which clearly is meant to create mayhem, violence, deprive citizens from participating peacefully in what they will want to choose as a political party. I think it's a very dangerous scenario, and it began with the senator from Osun State, who had also ordered killings of Nigerians simply because they are not his own party. At the same time, that same senator, when Amnesty International threatened that they will propel him, he went to court to beg court to stop Amnesty from taking action against him. I think beyond just the Amnesty International, we expected that the government and their parties, the ruling party, which they were making those careless and responsible utterances, they should have come out to also either condemn or distance themselves from such kind of things that are clearly anti-constitution, anti-human rights, and anti any civilizing, because we are running a constitutional politics in Nigeria. Nigerian government registered political parties, and which means that people have the choice to choose whatever political party they so wish. But for somebody who is a serving senator, who is a serving local government chairman, to come up to make this kind of utterances clearly shows you that the 2027, some people are determined to make it miserable, difficult, violent, and we need to do something to make sure that we protect the lives of Nigerians. We cannot continue because of the election be losing lives of Nigerians. Before the election in Ocean, we have it on record, over 28 people were killed. After the election, another set of number of people were killed. Why should we be losing lives of Nigerians despite this misery of life in terms of socio-economic and even security in the country? Politicians sometimes they tend to remember that one day they will leave that position or they will even die. And they will be definitely answerable to God. Even if you are not answerable to the people here, one day you will answer your call. But I think it is just simply not democracy you are practicing. It is simply something that is nothing to do with the constitutional democracy we are supposed to be practicing in Nigeria.
Well, talking about democracy, the constitution, what the law says, you've highlighted the efforts of Amnesty International as well as other CSOs in trying to address this kind of utterances. But in fact, in the Electoral Act 2026 as amended, there are, specific sections of that act that, speaks to issues like this. For instance, in section 101, where it bans any candidate, person or association from engaging in campaign or broadcasting based on religious, tribal, or sectional reasons, and in fact, if there's a violation of this rule, for the individual, they face a fine of up to 3 million, and for political parties, they're liable to pay a minimum of 30 and then a maximum fine of 50 million. So the law is very clear on what to do in this case. Now, you reference what happened in Oshun, and now we're seeing this also happen from a person of authority here in the FCT. The laws are there. Why do you think we're reluctant, as it were, to enforce what the law has said?
Well, I mean, it's very clear that some people will want to disregard the law that we have. If you have regard for the rule of law, if you have respect for the rule of law in Nigeria, you will not be seen to be involved in violating our constitution, violating the Electoral Act itself. But because of impunity, some people don't respect our laws. So they don't respect the Nigerian constitution, they don't respect the electoral law, neither are they respecting the international protocols and convention that Nigeria has committed itself to. So it's a concern to all of us, and I believe that even their own very political party, there's nowhere where it supports violence. There's nowhere where it supports restriction of right to freedom of choice. So we don't know where they have found their own legal document or legal provision that gives them the power to make this kind of reckless talk. In fact, it's not even reckless only, because when they say they should kill, we saw lives lost. Now, if you allow the Kuje Area Council chairman, it will spread to other places. That is why there must be urgent effort to rise up, to take decisive action. And if you have a party that is really serious, they should distance themselves, whether privately or openly. They should talk to their members to say, look, the Electoral Act did not allow us to do this. Let's do campaign based on issues, based on the fact that Nigerians need us to, that's in the case of ruling party, Nigerians need us to showcase what we have done in the last 3.5 years, rather than resulting to intimidation, harassment, and all sort of things that, are scaring even the voters.
Now, let me go to a particular concern you raised in your recent statement, talking about religion being politicized and being weaponized ahead of 2027, where you talked about religious leaders gathering to endorse political figures and parties. And there are concerns about this because where should we draw the line between a religious leader exercising their constitutional right and then using their religious authority to influence or manipulate an entire region? Also bearing in mind that for some of these religious leaders, their congregation comes to them to express, one grievance or the other that they may be facing as a result of government policies. So, I mean, they feel the weight of what the people are, passing through. Don't you think they stand at a good position to actually make a decision in the interest of the people that they are presiding over? Can you speak to that?
So the Nigerian constitution allows Nigerians, every Nigerian, irrespective of his title, whether traditional ruler, religious leader, whether journalist, whether activist, whether farmer, whatever category you belong to, the law does not prevent you from participating in a peaceful manner into electoral process in the country. However, the kind of campaign and support and endorsement that we are seeing people using religious platform, which is supposed to be a collective platform for advocating good and preaching against evil, has now been turned to a platform for campaigns. And in this campaign, you will see clearly individuals, political party or candidates are openly being endorsed. So this religious platform is supposed to be a combination of different, groups, different interest groups converging, coming together to worship. The whole issue is not to use it for political campaigns. It just shows you how empty some people are. They will have to resort to using God, using ethnicity to gain, votes. But on the basis of their own personal track record, on the basis of their competence, on the basis of their integrity, on the basis of issues based, on the issues of really looking at development, they are unable to sell their either party or their candidature. That is why they resort to using and exploiting Nigerians' sentiment towards ethnicity and religion. At the end of the day, accountability will suffer. At the end of the day, you cannot get any development. At the end of the day, you will have succeeded in undermining, competitive contests of ideas, because now you are being told to just blindly endorse a particular candidate or party. No debate, no discussion, no questioning. I think this is one of the most dangerous practice that our politicians are doing. They've reduced religious leaders to practically beggars, sycophants, which in the past, we know that our religious leaders, they have respect, they have dignity, they command really respect, because they are not being seen lying, campaigning. Because unfortunately, in Nigeria, politicians are associated with lying, deception, ample promises, and all sorts of things that you can think of, So it is normal to deceive. It is normal to lie. It is normal to twist things. It is normal not to be honest. It is normal not to fulfill any commitment in the name of politics. In the name of politics, it is allowed to drug people. In the name of politics, it is allowed to arms young people with arms and ammunition to go and kill. You call it politics. So is that what the religious leaders are supposed to be doing? For me, they can have the right to choose whatever party or politician candidate they want, but they cannot use the platform that is on trust, because that platform they have is a trust. You cannot commercialize it. What they are doing is commercialization of the trust given to them by people and by God to sell Nigerians, and I think it's very dangerous.
So
whoever chooses to follow this path, it means that that party or that candidate has nothing to offer. That is why they have to resort to this sentiment, because since they know that many Nigerians, unfortunately, they then ask questions, they then interrogate once you bring in issues of God, once you bring in issue of ethnicity. So they will follow you blindly, and the politicians are exploring more and more such kind of opportunity so that they can just get endorsement without being questioned.
We've seen a lot of connection between religion and the subject of politics and elections in Nigeria, in past election cycles, which I'm now tempted to ask. If you really think that the two can be separated. Recently, we've seen comments from an Islamic cleric who expressed his support for, the Muslim ticket that is being run by the ruling party. On the other hand, we had a cardinal, who came out to openly criticize some of the policies of the current administration. Now, yes, they're speaking from a position of trust where the people, have given them these clerical privileges. But they are also part of the Nigerian system. Really, my question is, do you think we can make that separation, seeing how intertwined we are in terms of religion and politics? Do you really think we can make that distinction as we head closer to the elections?
Absolutely, you can do that. The only reason why you see this is happening is because of the absence of political education in Nigeria. You can have degree, you can have masters, you can even have PhD. If you are not politically educated, you will simply fall into this trap of misuse of religion or ethnicity. There are people with PhD, there are people with masters. When they talk, there's no difference between somebody on the street and them, because they are so blinded, they don't use their knowledge to apply in operationalization of their lives and also helping to lead Nigerians. So they will have to resort to using ethnicity and religion. The other day we were on radio show from one of the APM in Ibadan, and some of the callers, they were saying it doesn't matter whether their candidate is a looter, whether their candidate is a murderer, as long as he belongs to a particular identity, they will support him. Such kind of madness is not a choice. It is actually misplacement of priority and denying your own self the right to good governance, the right to development, the right to accountability, the right to have people of impeccable character so that even your country can be respected. As I speak to you, internationally, Nigerians suffer from humiliation because of the perceived or perception that their leaders are XYZ. So, for me, you are contributing to dehumanizing the country if you choose this blind way. You cannot see the person that you are endorsing to even ask for caution or to even at least get some information on what they are doing as their representative. You cannot be able to contribute to whatever ideas that will shape the representation he or she does on your behalf, because you are asked to blindly support on the basis of ethnicity or on the basis of religion. So it is a very dangerous thing for democracy, because democracy is also about participation. It's about accountability. It is about also ensuring that people are able to demonstrate their track record. Now you alienated yourself from having that fundamental right to know how your representative is representing you, because you have done a blind ethnic or religious support. Again, religious leaders, we know in the past, there are people of God who preach God, who supposed to encourage people to stay away from violence, stay away from stealing, stay away from injustice. Now, if you now come without interrogating, without asking questions, without ensuring that you preach to these political leaders to respond to the yearning and aspiration of Nigerians who are in state of poverty, hunger, starvation, unemployment, lack of decency of life, lack of dignity even in labor where they are even working, you are actually not preaching anything. You are commercializing the services that you are supposed to do to tell the leaders and the followers, all of them, because the religious leaders have responsibility to make sure that they preach God, they preach good conduct. They are not supposed to be preaching blind, endorsement. They are supposed to ensure at all times they talk to people to fear God, to do things fairly, to do justice, to ensure that they did not loot, public resources. The followers, they're supposed to also preach to them to make sure that they are law-abiding, they are peaceful in their conduct, and they are also obedient to the rule of law. If you now choose to forget about what the ruler is supposed to do, and you are just asking your followers just to endorse and support, I think you have abandoned what you are supposed to do as a good messenger or as a good parenting person, as a religious leader. You are simply using your platform for commercialization and bastardization of that trust that you are giving.
All right. Very quickly, before we let you go due to the brevity of time, let me quickly circle back to where we started from on when political leaders or public office holders make insightful or offer, begin to issue threats over how a voter intends to vote. Very quickly, what should INEC, what should the security agencies do about this now that we're still a couple of months before the election ahead of 2027?
Coming from an opposition political figure, probably the government would have arrested that person or warned him. Something would definitely have happened. But because it is the ruling party, so the ruling party that did not distance itself, did not caution the person, neither has INEC even made threat to say we are going to impose the law that we have against anybody who uses such kind of utterances. So you can see one-sided of the position of enforcement of our law. And that is also very dangerous if you become selective. You cannot allow, if religious war or ethnic war began, who are the victims? The same Nigerians. So government is sleeping without waking up to take necessary action to make sure that it deals with potentials of issues that can bring mayhem in our country. Allowing the continuation of this kind of reckless and anti-law utterances, anti-democratic utterances, is capable of generating more heat and more instability. Already the government is suffering from or is overwhelmed with the kind of insecurity that we have. You do not need additional one now. Allowing this kind of utterances is simply, an invitation to chaos, which I don't think Nigerian government can manage. So, but you can prevent this from stopping your members, and you also not only as a party, leader or party official to distance itself, but government, because we need to make separation here. There's a ruling party, there's also government.
All right.
The government is supposed to be for everyone. So even if the ruling party does not do anything, the government institutions that are supposed to implement our laws, they're supposed to caution and take action against kind of persons.
All right. Well, thank you so very much, Executive Director of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC. Mr. Rafsanjani, thank you so much for your thoughts on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All righty then, and do enjoy the rest of your day.